بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. Assalamu alaikum to all the participants of this webinar. I'm Dr. Hambacha, Head of Department, University Institute of Radiological Sciences at the University of Lahore. I'm profoundly grateful to my teacher, my mentor, and my guide, Professor Dr. Dramirgilani, for providing us the platform to share knowledge across the world, irrespective of the territorial boundaries and institutional limitations. A lot of opportunities have always been provided by him to me to develop my knowledge. Laterally, he has a substantial role in my professional and educational career. I feel pleasure to pay my heartiest gratitude to such an incredible personality at this occasion and testify it in front of individuals from different parts of the world. I'm grateful to all the participants around the world who spare their precious time and honored us by participating in this webinar. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honor you. I'm not a great speaker. However, most of you are great scholars, and I'm glad to have this opportunity to learn from you. The topic of my today's talk is Doppler Ultrasound Instrumentation and Knobology. It had been heard that ultrasound physics and instrumentation is a tough and unattractive subject, but I assure you, by the grace of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will find it very interesting and hopefully you will enjoy it. For this purpose, I have divided my talk into chunks: grayscale image formation, Doppler information, Doppler instrumentation, knobology, and Doppler measurements. Although to teach such an extensive subject in a very short period of time is similar to build a bridge over the sea. But still, I want to review a little bit about Doppler ultrasound physics. So first of all, how grayscale image form. Sound wave coming from inside the body or from the medium have two types of information. Reflected sound waves from different reflector have different go return time according to the location. And according to that go return time, different reflectors are placed at different location on the display of ultrasound image. Some reflectors are far away, they have more go return time and they are placed away from the transducer. Some are near to the transducer and they have short go return time and placed near. And some of the sound wave have intermediate go return time and they are placed at intermediate level and on the ultrasound image. The second type of information the returning echoes have is amplitude. So the returning sound waves, or we can say echoes, have different amplitudes, depends upon the strength of the reflector. Different reflector have different strength inside the body, and they reflect sound wave with different amplitudes. So some structure, irrespective of the location or distance from the transducer, are strong reflector, so they will appear on the display of ultrasound screen as bright. And some reflectors are weak reflector, so the sound wave reflected from that reflector, weak reflector, will have a low amplitude and they will appear on the display as black. This way, the ultrasound image will appear on the display in gray shades from black to white. So in grayscale ultrasound, the returning sound wave have two types of information. One is go return time and the other one is amplitude. If sound wave travel in the medium, amplitude, wavelength, speed of sound, and so on, they could be changed. But frequency remain constant unless there is any movement in the reflector. If the reflector is moving, then the frequency of the echo will be different from that of the pulse. And just for example, you can see in this image, in the first object, the structure is stationary. The reflector is stationary. Neither it's moving towards the transducer nor away the transducer. So you can see the pulse which is generated by the transducer and the echo which is reflected from the reflector having the same frequency. There is no change in frequency. So that is rule of thumb. If the reflector is stationary, then there will be no change between the reflector and the transmitted frequency. But you can see in the second example, the reflector is moving towards the transducer. Whatever the reflector may be, but most probably inside the body, it will be RBCs. The reflector was, in the second example, the reflector was moving towards the transducer. Here I'll show you. This is the reflector which was moving towards the transducer, and the incident sound waves which are generated by the transducer having the frequency. You can see this is the frequency which was generated, but the returning frequency is higher than the transmitted frequency. So there is a difference between the reflected and transmitted frequency. And again, in the third example, third object, the object is moving away from the transducer. So here you can see again in the example, the reflected frequency in the third object, now you will see after that. So the reflected frequency will now be greater, lesser than. Now you can see this is the reflected frequency which was lesser than the transmitted frequency. And this difference is called Doppler shift. Either reflector is moving away from the transducer or towards the transducer, but there will be difference between receiving and transmitted frequency, and that could be calculated with this formula. Here in this formula, FD is Doppler shift, and FR is the reflected or receiving frequency, and FT is the transmitter or transducer frequency. So there will be a difference between the reflected and transmitted frequency, and that is called Doppler shift. For example, the transducer frequency is 4 megahertz. Your transducer is operating with 4 megahertz frequency, and the receiving frequency is 4.01 megahertz. So there will be a difference according to this formula. There will be a difference between the receiving and transmitted frequency, and that difference is 0.01 megahertz, which is equal to 10 kilohertz. So this 10 kilohertz is Doppler shift. Here we have a Doppler shift of 10 kilohertz, but the reflector is moving towards the transducer because this Doppler shift is positive, mean the receiving frequency is higher than the transmitted frequency. The reflector is moving towards the transducer, that's why the receiving frequency is greater than the transmitted frequency. And the second instance, if the transducer operating frequency is 4 megahertz, and the receiving frequency is 3.99 megahertz. So when we calculate the Doppler shift, so that Doppler shift will be equal to minus 0.01 megahertz, and that minus 0.01 megahertz is equal to minus 10 kilohertz. But this minus sign shows that now the reflector is moving away the transducer. That's why the Doppler shift is negative. So the Doppler shift, if the Doppler shift is positive, it means the reflector is moving towards the transducer and the receiving frequency is greater than the transmitted frequency. And if the reflector is moving away the transducer, then the receiving frequency will be lesser than the transmitted frequency. That's why the Doppler shift will be negative. So You can calculate this with this formula. Yeah, now this is a third type of information. Until now, we had only two types of information in grayscale sonography. One was go return time and the other one was amplitude. But here now we have a third type of information, and that is Doppler shift frequency. So this Doppler shift frequency, third type of information, is too useful. It can give us information regarding the movement of the reflector. I mean, either there is any moment in the reflector or not, and if there is any moment, so what will be the direction of the movement? So that is a very good information. But a question arises: how to present this Doppler shift? So instrumentation is needed for it. So chronologically, there were so many instruments which presented that Doppler shift. So first of all, there was spectral Doppler. So grayscale along with spectral Doppler is called duplex ultrasound. And in the umbrella of spectral Doppler, there is pulse wave Doppler and continuous wave Doppler. And both of them, there will be spectral formation. That's why they are called spectral Doppler. The third type of Doppler chronologically was color Doppler. And the fourth type of Doppler was power Doppler, which was the advanced form of color Doppler. So color Doppler, but by procedure, whenever we are going to perform ultrasound, first of all, we are doing grayscale ultrasound. Then if we have any suspicion regarding any flow, any moment, then we are going to apply color Doppler. So by procedure, after grayscale, we are going to apply color Doppler. So color Doppler can give us information regarding presence of flow, and if the flow is present, what will be the direction of flow? So presence of flow and direction of flow. Then spectral Doppler is used for the detailed characteristics of blood flow. What is the velocity of blood flow? What type of resistances were there? Is there any pulsatility or not, and so on. So we have two types of spectral Doppler. One is continuous wave Doppler. Each of them have their own benefits. So continuous wave Doppler can't Alias. However, there is no range resolution. And pulse wave Doppler have best range resolution, but there will be Doppler. There will be aliasing, which could be created by high Doppler shift as a response of high velocity, just for example, at the heart stenotic valve. So at that point, we will have aliasing. That's why we will have to convert Doppler, spectral Doppler from pulse Doppler to continuous wave Doppler. Then the next type of Doppler is power Doppler. That is the advanced form of color Doppler. It is low flow, slow flow sensitive, but it can't give us information regarding the direction of the flow. Whenever we are talking about the knobology, how to play with the knobs of the machine, so we'll have to a typical control panel of ultrasound machine, and then we have to know about some of the knobs, and we can apply these knowledge on every machine. All the machine having a little bit difference in their notation on the knobs, but almost they have the same function. So we'll discuss about this very control panel, and some of the knobs which are related to color and spectral Doppler. We'll discuss them in a little bit detail. So first of all, whenever we are going to perform grayscale ultrasound, we have some suspicion regarding flow. We are suspicious that maybe there will be some flow, there are some tubular structure, maybe there are vessel, so there must be some flow. So we are going to apply color Doppler on it. Whenever we apply color Doppler, so we have a color box on the screen, and different color, the transducer have different color box, but here I'm going to show you the two most commonly used transducer. One is linear transducer and the other one is convex transducer. So the color box of the linear transducer is rectangular, and that of convex transducer is trapezoid. And in case of linear transducer, the sound waves are moving linearly. But in case of convex transducer, the sound waves are moving on edges obliquely, and at center they are moving straight. So in case of linear transducer, it's mandatory to tilt the color box. So how can we tilt the color box? We are going to tilt them. Just for example, here in these two clips, you can see the color box of the linear transducer can be tilted without tilting knob on the ultrasound control panel. And here you can see in the first image, just like I'll show you again. In the first image, you can see the color box is tilted to left, then again it's tilted to right with the help of the knob, which is circled in red. And on the right side, the transducer used over here is convex transducer, and we can merely move the color box on the display, grayscale display. And on each edge, the sound waves are moving oblique. That's why there is no need for the color box of the convex transducer to be individually tilted, because they are naturally tilted. Then this color box can be increased in depth and width. But here we are talking about the depth of the color box. Here you can see whenever we apply color Doppler, a color box appear on the grayscale display, and there the transducer now generating additional sound waves, additional pulses for that very particular region on which the color box is placed, to bring information regarding any flow, any moment that could be used for Doppler shift. So for that Doppler shift, there must be some additional scan lines, and these scan lines will be generated by the ultrasound pulses. So the ultrasound pulses are generated to complete one pulse. But in case of grayscale ultrasound, one scan line will be generated by a single pulse. But here in case of color Doppler, the one scan line will be generated by a number of pulses, and the number of pulses required for the completion of a single scan line is called packet size or ensemble length. So here in front of you, in the first example, you can see these are multiple scan lines, but each scan line having a number of pulses, which are, I will show you once again. They are generated pulses on each scan line. And now here you can see the ensemble length is almost 6. 6 pulses are generated for the completion of one pulse. And for the entire image, there is a time required, which is calculated over here. Now I'll show you in the second example in which the depth of the color box is increased. So here you can see the ensemble length is almost double of the first one. And you can see the time on the top of the screen. And so you can compare the time for the first image and for the second image, and then you will be able to decide with the increase in depth of the color box what will happen. So you can see that this image take more time as compared to the first one. So with the increase in color box depth, the time required for the completion of one image on the ultrasound display will be greater than for shallow color box. And this way, it will deteriorate temporal resolution. It will reduce frame rate, and frame rate eventually result in the deterioration of temporal resolution. The same way, here you can see the practical example of the depth. So here in this example, the color box is shallow. You can see the frame rate is 6, which is the arrow, which is in pink over here. You can see this is 6 frames per second. And in the second example, in this one, you can see the color box depth is increased. And with this increase, you can see now the frame rate is reduced to 4 frames per second, mean only 4 frames will be changed on the display of ultrasound screen in 1 second. So this will reduce the number of frames per second on the display. That will deteriorate temporal resolution. The image will flicker during real-time sonography. The same way with the increase in depth, the same way with the increase in width, there will also be decrease in the frame rate, and again in temporal resolution. And again, you can see with the increase in width of the color box, you can see for the first image, which is over here, the time is up to this. And then you can see now the depth is the same, but only the width is increased. And what will happen with the increase in the width, there will be increase in the number of scan lines required for this very image. So now you can see the second image having double the number of scan lines for the image one, and you can see it had taken more time than the first one. So this is short time, and this is long time as compared to the first image. So it will take twice the time of the first image. That's why it will have low frame rate, and with that low frame rate, it will eventually result in deterioration of temporal resolution. And here you can see this is narrow color box. Here you can see in this narrow color box the frame rate is 11 frames per second, but with the increase in width of the color box, the frame rate is now reduced. Now you can take this message with yourself that you will have to keep the color box as narrow as possible and as shallow as possible to not to compromise the temporal resolution, because you will have to improve the frame rate to increase the temporal resolution as well. Then we have a color map. Whenever we are performing ultrasound, color Doppler ultrasound, so you will deal this type of color map. By map, we can detect the direction of blood flow. This map will be on the side of the screen you would have observed, but if not, then you will have to observe towards again. And I have a lot of images as well. I will show you. This color map have two colors, two channels and two colors, upper channel and lower channel. In color Doppler, upper channel always mean towards the transducer moment, and lower channel mean away the transducer moment. If you place a color box, and in that color box there is a color which is red, so according to the first color map, that will be away the transducer moment. But according to the second color map, that will be towards the transducer moment. This color box could be inverted by a single push of an invert button. So you will have to keep it in mind, and you will have to compare the colors in the color box with the color map at the side of the screen to detect the direction of blood flow. Either the moment is away the transducer or towards the transducer. Here you can see in this practical example, these are iliac vessel. One is artery and the other one is vein. And you can see in the first example, the upper channel in the color box having color map, sorry, having red color, and the color in the vein inside the color box having blue color. So this blue color mean the moment of the reflector or the flow is away the transducer. So this is the direction of the flow. In the second image, you can see now the color map is inverted, and you can see the color inside the color box. So here, this is now red, and by red we mean this is away the transducer, and again this is the direction of blood flow. Because the direction of the blood flow is not changed, we have only changed the color box, and sometimes this color box will be needed to change. That's why you will have to know about the color map. So by that map you can detect the direction of flow inside the color box. The baseline. So the baseline can divide this color map into two channels, upper channel and lower channel. So by upper channel we mean that the movement is towards the transducer. The lower channel we mean that the movement is away the transducer. But this baseline is colored in black. So by black we mean there is no movement at all. So this is the baseline, and this baseline could be adjusted. It could be moved up and down. With the help of this baseline, we can increase the color map of one channel with the expense of the other one. Here you can see this is color scale. So by scale we mean a measuring instrument. So this is a measuring instrument for the Doppler shift, but in the form, it will measure in the form of colors. So this color scale again is divided by this baseline into two channels, the upper channel and the lower channel is blue. So the extremmost point of this color scale has been annotated as 13.1 in this color map. You can change it by increasing PRF, by increasing scale. So in this example, it can calculate, it can measure any velocity in the color box up to 13 centimeter per second, but any velocity above 13 centimeter per second could not be measured with this one, and that will alias. We will discuss it later on. So how can we measure, how could color be assigned to any flow inside the color box? So if there is any moment, any flow inside the color box, and that is in dark red in this color. So by that dark red, we mean that the color is near to the baseline. This is slow flow, but in the upper channel, this is towards the transducer. And if the flow is in dark blue, it's mean this is near to the baseline, but in the lower channel, so this is slow flow, but away the transducer. And if the flow is in light red, it's mean this is towards the transducer, but fast flow. And if it is in light blue, it's mean this is away the transducer, but fast flow. Although color Doppler ultrasound can give us only clue regarding velocity, but it can't give us exact velocity. For exact velocity measurement, we'll have to use spectral Doppler, pulsar Doppler. We'll discuss it later on. So now we are talking about color aliasing. Here in this example, you can see the Nyquist limit is at 9.8 centimeter, which is too low, and that's why the color have been changed from red to light red, then again into light blue, and then in turn that light blue was also gradually decreased to dark blue. And in the same image, you can see now the scale has been improved or increased with the help of PRF, while increasing PRF. So now we can see that the color is red, and this is in the lower channel, and this is away the transducer moment, and you can see there is no aliasing at all. So that aliasing could be minimized with the help of baseline and increase in PRF and so on. So these are some important points that could reduce the PRF. And the second example, you can see again here, the Nyquist limit is 13.1 centimeter per second. And now you can see the colors inside this vessel. So initially it was red, but in the center, because there will be laminar flow in normal vessels, in normal large vessels. So in laminar flow, the central lamina flow fast as compared to the boundary lamina. So the boundary lamina having a red color, but the central lamina are fast as compared to the adjacent boundaries. So due to fast movement, there will be great Doppler shift, and that is gradually the dark red was converted to light red, and later on that light red was converted to light blue, and that is aliasing. And when the scale was reduced, then what happened? The dark red on the boundary lamina was gradually converted to light red, and then light red into light blue, and again that light blue gradually converted to dark blue as well. And this is aliasing. So that aliasing could be minimized. I told you that first of all you will have to apply baseline, then you will have to maximize PRF, or you can say scale, and then you will have to increase the frequency, sorry, decrease the Doppler frequency, and then you will have to increase the angle. This is the way by which you can reduce the aliasing. Now we are talking about color again, because this is also important. As you know about the grayscale ultrasound, and grayscale ultrasound, we are all the time we are playing with the with a knob which is related to gain. So this, by this gain we mean to amplify echoes. So that was in grayscale. Here, to amplify Doppler shift. For the amplification of Doppler shift, color gain is used. So by that color gain, weak Doppler shift is amplified and enhanced, but that color gain should be properly placed, properly adjusted. Here in this example, you can see the color gain is too high, and here it is written. You will have to read all the screen as well. So this is color gain, which is 80, but now it is reduced, adjusted to such an extent that only the vessel having colors, and the adjacent soft tissue, which initially it was overwriting, and the complete color box was filled with color. But now only the vessel having colors, but the rest of color box having soft tissues which are not moving, having no color. And now this color gain is 35. So you can adjust the color gain to such an extent that only the vessel should have color, and the color box should not be overwritten, just like in this case or in this case. So you will have to adjust to this extent to the vessel only have color and not the soft tissues. Then the most important thing is presets or protocols. Sometimes whenever we are starting ultrasound, so we have a patient registration form, just like you can see in this video clip. So there is a knob. You can select a new patient from that very knob, which is pressed now. So the patient registration form is open. You will have to enter the patient name and all other biodata, age and gender and so on, which are required for according to the departmental protocols. But you'll have to select the proper preset, which will be appear in the form of pop-up menu, as you can see in this image. And you can select with the help of a trackball and select button. So you'll have to select a proper preset, and that proper preset is at most important, because engineers have spent a lot of time for OEs to enhance and reduce the scanning time or the examination time. Because whenever we are going to adjust all these settings for every patient or every protocol, it will be too difficult for us, and it will be too time consuming. So for reduction of this time, we will have to select proper protocols or proper preset. So these proper presets could be selected from the very beginning, from the patient registration form, or you can adjust it or toggle it to the next protocol by selecting the presets on your soft keys or anywhere on your control panel. And from that preset, you can select a new protocol or preset, and that will be very good instead of individual adjustment of settings, because these individual adjustment of settings will be too hectic and time consuming as compared to selecting a proper protocol. Just for example, I will give you an example. I'm going to perform the lower limb examination, and I'm keen to perform both arterial and venous examination at the same time. So it will be too difficult for me to uh, um, to adjust all the settings from arterial to venous or from venous to arterial. So it is too easy to only change the presets from venous to arterial, because just for example, I'm examining the groin region, and I'm going to take the spectra of the femoral vein. Then I will have to select the venous protocol. And if I am going to take the spectra of the femoral artery, then I'll go to select the arterial protocol. So that will be too easy, because there are a lot of such adjustment which could be changed. Just for example, sweep speed, and the same way Doppler frequency, the same way wall filter, dynamic range, internal presets, and so on. So these are too many variables which could be adjusted for every protocol. So that is important to select proper protocol. So the uses of color Doppler. So you know from the very beginning that color Doppler can only give us information regarding the presence of flow and direction of flow, but it can't give us exact velocity. It can give us only clue regarding the velocity. If there is some aliasing at a focal point in a vessel, so that will be a red signal for any examiner that there is something wrong, but it can't give us exact velocity, that what velocity it is. So for that purpose, we'll have to select spectral Doppler. Power Doppler is advanced form of color Doppler, and you can say this is slow flow sensitive. This is no angle dependent. But the drawback is over here. This is unidirectional. It can't give us information regarding the direction. So in some organs and structure, when there we are keen to know about the blood flow perfusion of that very particular organ, then we'll have to place a color box on it. Just for example, you can see this is an image of thyroid gland, and the color box is placed on it, and you can see excessive amount of flow in it. That is too easily detected by power Doppler, but sometimes this slow flow could be missed by color Doppler. Now we are going towards the pulse Doppler. So the pulse Doppler, which is a form of spectral Doppler, a spectra will be formed in this Doppler. That's why this is called pulse Doppler. When we have any vessel and there is any color in it, and we know about the direction about the with the help of color Doppler, and we know that there is flow and what is the direction of flow. Then we will have to apply pulse wave Doppler on it. So by applying a pulse wave Doppler, we have some of the most important things which should be adjusted, and this is knobology. We are going to discuss it. So whenever we apply color spectral Doppler, so first of all, a Doppler line will appear on our screen, and there will be two parallel line or bar on it. That will be a sample volume or Doppler get. So we are going to discuss it, but in the settings, we have first of all to select the transducer. So that transducer selection could be done with the help of presets. Whenever you are going to select proper presets, so the proper transducer will already be selected. But sometime we need to change the transducer. Just for example, I'm going to perform abdominal ultrasound, and I'm going to, there is some superficial structure, and I want to see it with high resolution. Then will select a linear transducer. And if I'm performing ultrasound of the lower limb, and there is some as there's some suspicion of a problem inside the abdominal vasculature, then I'll have to change my transducer from linear to convex. For that purpose, we will have a probe menu in our machine. By clicking that probe menu or pressing that hard key, we'll have this type of transducer selection menu. So all the transducer which are connected with your machine, they will appear in this window, and you will have to select your proper transducer from that very particular region. For superficial structure, linear with high frequency, and for deep structure, you will have to select convex transducer. And for transvaginal transrectal, you will have to select transvaginal transducer. So that depends upon your region of interest and the structure of interest. So first of all, whenever you apply a spectral Doppler, yeah, pulse wave Doppler, so a Doppler line will appear on the screen. As you can see, this is a Doppler line, and two parallel line are there, and this Doppler line, which is called sample volume. So that sample volume could also be adjusted, and this Doppler line could be, that Doppler line could also be tilted on either side, to either right or to left. I'm going to, here you can see these two are videos, but they are not playing. What's the problem with it? But we can see this Doppler line either to this direction or to this direction with the help of this knob, tilting knob. Whenever you tilt this knob to either side, the Doppler line will tilt to either to this direction or to this direction. Whatever the direction you are desired in, you can tilt it to that very direction. You can see spectral Doppler window. Whenever you open a spectral Doppler, so you will have a spectral Doppler window on your screen. So you can see this is a spectral Doppler window over here. This is a Doppler line, and this is spectral Doppler window. Whenever you turn on spectral Doppler, so these two things will appear on your display. This was a grayscale image. You can superimpose a color box on it as well. But whenever you turn on spectral Doppler, first of all, this line along with this spectral Doppler window, they will appear on the display. So if you want to change the size of the sample volume or position of the sample volume, that is too easy. You can do it with the help of these knobs. There will be a knob for the sample volume size on your display, sorry, on the control panel, and you can change it with that knob. And almost in majority of the machine, you can change the position of the sample volume with the help of the trackball. You can move up and down. So you'll have to place it on the desired location. The location when there you are suspicious of any flow, you will have to place your sample volume on that very region. And you can change the size of the sample volume as well. Here you can see the size of that sample volume is 20 millimeter. But in the second image, the size of the sample volume over here is 1.5 millimeter. So you can change that sample volume according to your region of interest, but you will have to, it's desired to place the sample volume inside the vessel lumen, and most probably in the large vessel, it should be 1/3 of the vessel lumen, but it's impossible in small vessel. But it's important to place it in the center of the large vessel. Then we have angle correction. So that angle correction is at most important. Whenever once you place your sample volume on the desired location, then you will have to correct an angle correction. So there will be an angle correction knob on the display. You will have to adjust the angle correction, and this angle correction line which you can see in this image, this should always be in the direction of the flow. Here you can see this is the direction of the flow, and the angle correction line which looks in between the sample volume and void, that is parallel or along the direction of the flow. And here you can see in the first image there is no angle correction. The angle correction have not been done. By default, machine assume that the angle correction is 0. So whenever machine assume that the angle is 0, so at that point the peak systolic velocity which was measured by the machine was 88.2 centimeter per second. And whenever you did the angle correction, and now the exact velocity in that particular vessel is 159 centimeter per second. There is a huge difference between these two velocities. So the accurate one is this one. So keep it in your mind. Whenever you are relying on velocities, you will have to make angle correction, then your velocity will be reliable. Otherwise, it could be like this. Because the actual velocity in this vessel is 159.5 centimeter per second, but due to wrong angle correction, the velocity is 88.2, and there is a huge difference. So whenever you are relying on the velocity, so the angle correction is at most important. It should be done. You can see in this image, in this video clip, this was angle correction which was done. And in the second image, you can see this is a spectral window, and you see that the baseline was adjusted and the upper and lower channel, and now the spectra was moving in the upper channel. Here in this image, you can see these are presets which we discussed a little bit in the color Doppler. But here again, we have to select proper presets. Now you can see these two images, one for venous and the other one for arterial examination. Now here you can see these are femoral artery, this one, and this is femoral vein. But whenever we selected arterial protocol, so there is no flow at all in the vein. So we will have to select proper protocol for it, then we will have flow in it, and there is very good flow in the vessel. So this is at most important to select proper preset. If you are not going to select proper preset and you are going to perform the venous examination with the help of this arterial examination, so what will you do? First of all, you will have to change the dynamic range. Then you will have to change the wall filter, because wall filter was kept high for arterial examination, but it was needed low for this venous examination. So low wall filter is needed for venous, high wall filter is needed for the arterial examination. Then you will have to change the sweep speed. Then you will have to change the velocity. Then you will have to change the many other things. So that's why it's important and very easy to just toggle in between the presets, and that is too easy. You can do it during your examination. No new entry is needed for that. You can do it by simply clicking a preset, and you will have a list of preset. Then you will have to select from that presets. And this is the method. You can select this knob. This is preset. Whenever you select this menu will appear on the screen. So these are different types of presets you can select. Just for example, you are going to perform fetal heart, so you'll have to select this one. You are going to gynae sonography, so you will have to select this one. If you are going to peripheral artery, then select this one. So this is too easy. Only once select this one and your presets will be changed. Then spectral Doppler gain. As you know, this is spectral Doppler window. So in this spectral Doppler window, whenever the Doppler gain is high, So it will happen. The entire window will be full of this Doppler shift. This is actually Doppler shift, but this is artificial Doppler shift. We have increased the Doppler gain, and that gain amplified all the minor Doppler shift. Just for example, if there is a soft tissue movement, small amount of movement, and that could change a little bit, and the returning frequency or the receiving frequency, that will be a little Doppler shift will be formed, but due to an increase in spectral Doppler gain, that is enhanced. The Doppler shift was just, for example, 1, but you added with it, with the help of spectral Doppler gain, almost 100. So it was become now 101, and that has been given a color. That was an example, not actually. Okay, so you can change this with the help of a knob, and you can reduce it to such an extent that the background should be black and the spectra should be in white or in color, just like in the second example, which is a movie clip. Here you can see the gain is too high, but now it is reduced, and that is proper. Then spectral Doppler scale or PRF. So you can see this is a spectral Doppler window. I told you at the start that this spectral Doppler window could be at the base or at the side of the grayscale image. So now this is spectral Doppler window, but this spectral Doppler window has some other things. This spectral Doppler window have been divided into 2 channels by this baseline. And this there is a graduated line beside this spectral Doppler window, and this graduated line is called spectral Doppler scale, and the extremmost point of this scale is called Nyquist limit. So here in this example, the Nyquist limit of upper channel is 80 centimeter per second, and the Nyquist limit of the lower channel is almost 30 to 40 centimeter per second. So you can increase or decrease this Nyquist limit by increasing PRF or decreasing PRF, or you can adjust this baseline if you are keen to increase the size of this upper channel and reduce the size of lower channel, then you will have to adjust this baseline to this position. So now the upper channel will be greater in size with the expense of lower channel. Lower channel will become small, but we are not interested in the lower channel. That's why the upper channel was increased. Here you can see this is the baseline. So how could we adjust the baseline? So this was the method to adjust the baseline, and we have to increase the, so yeah, now you can see the upper channel and which there is a spectra that is greater than the lower one, because we are not interested in the lower channel. We are interested in the upper channel, and we have done that. Then we can invert the spectra. But unlike color Doppler, and color Doppler, the upper channel was always towards the transducer, and lower channel was always away the transducer, irrespective of the color. Either red is in the upper channel or blue, but upper channel was towards. But here, in case of spectral Doppler, the upper and lower channel, these channels are assigned with the negative or positive sign. So in this spectral Doppler window, you can see the color scale, which is labeled with 1, having a small minus with it. So you can say that the upper channel in this spectral window is negative, and by negative we mean that will be away the transducer if there is any spectra in that channel, but we have no spectra in it at all. If there is, but this is mirror image. We will talk about this mirror image in next lecture, inshallah. And here you can see this is the lower channel, but here the lower channel is positive. So by this positive channel, it's mean that this flow is towards the transducer, and you can say it in the color from the color Doppler as well. The upper channel is given color of blue, so this blue color mean this is towards the transducer and this is the direction of the flow. But here the channel is inverted, but and with the inversion of the channel, now that negative sign is now over here, and this positive sign is now over here. So it was positive over here and positive over here as well. So the flow is always towards the transducer in these two images, but only the channel have been changed. So it is good looking to the spectra be in the upper channel. That's why you have changed the channel, but there is no change in the spectra, no change in the direction of the velocity, because whatever the direction of the velocity, that will remain the same. So now again, this is the direction of the flow, because this is a positive channel. Here you can see spectral inversion. So how could you invert the spectra? So this is a spectra which is going on, and suddenly we will change it. You can see this one. So we have changed, pushed the invert button, and the spectra is now in the upper channel. You can see. Then we have a wall filter. So by wall filter, we mean that we are going to give the machine a threshold that the machine will eradicate or neglect all the Doppler shift below that threshold. Just for example, we have given a wall filter to this very image that is 31. So any Doppler shift below 31 hertz will be eradicated, but all the shift above 31 hertz will be depicted in the form of spectra. But here you can see the same image, the same patient, the same image, the same time at the same occasion. You can see now the wall filter is increased from 31 to 183, and here you can see that all the spectra near the baseline is eradicated. That is now that appear now black, and the spectra is looking that only top of the spectra appear, which were like this. This top appear, and the rest of all the Doppler shift which is near to the baseline were eradicated. The same way, and the second example, this is the first example was a venous examination. This was venous, okay, and the second is arterial examination. This is artery pulsatile flow. So you can see here in this image, the wall filter is 94, and the flow near the baseline is also present in this image. But now the wall filter is increased to 470, and now you can see all the Doppler shift near the baseline, all the Doppler shift which are below 470 hertz are eradicated by the machine, and that they are not depicted in the spectra. This wall filter is important for arterial examination whenever we are doing arterial examination. So we know the walls of the arteries are pulsating up and down. So some of the Doppler shift are also made by that wall movement. So we're keen to know to have velocity only of the blood, not the artery wall. So we want to eradicate that low Doppler shift with high amplitude. So that could be eradicated with the help of this wall filter. If we increase the wall filter, it's mean we are increasing the threshold, and all the Doppler shift below that threshold will be eradicated or neglected by the machine. Then we have duplex priority setting, and some of the machine, because whenever we are performing a grayscale ultrasound, the transducer is performing one work. Whenever we are going to superimpose color Doppler on it, now the transducer is doing two works. And whenever we superimpose spectral Doppler on it, now the transducer will perform three works at a time, and its efficacy will reduce. So for improvement and the efficiency of the transducer, we have to select some duplex priority setting. So these duplex priority settings are three: simultaneous, concomitant, and simultaneous, intermittent, and dedicated. So here I will show you this one. In the first video clip, you can see the sample volume is placed inside the vessel, but whenever it is updated, so the grayscale image is passed with the expense of the spectral Doppler. So now we are having best spectral Doppler, but the grayscale image is passed. And in the second example, you can see initially this is simultaneous. This is also going on, this is also going on, but now it is changed to dedicated. So you can see this image again. Here you can see initially it was simultaneous, and then it was converted to intermittent. No, sorry, dedicated. So in dedicated ultrasound, the spectra will be best, but the grayscale image will not be updated. So in case of vascular examination, dedicated settings, duplex priority setting are too good, because once you place your transducer in place and you place your sample volume in the vessel lumen and done angle correction, then update, and there will be no change, there will be no moment and the muscle in the other structure, because these are soft tissues. Just for example, you are performing the vessel of the lower limb, so the patient is lying calm down, so the muscle are not moving, and only dedicated is sufficient for it, because you will have best spectral Doppler imaging. But in case of abdominal examination, if you place the transducer and sample volume in a vessel and update, and you have selected a dedicated duplex priority setting, then after respiration, your sample volume will be misplaced from the lumen of the vessel, and that's why it will be too difficult. And the same way, in obstetrical examination, the fetus will move, and the spectra will not appear as good. And in those cases, just for example, abdominal ultrasound and obstetrical ultrasound simultaneous are best as compared to dedicated. We have discussed all these things. This was just to remind you what we have done. And one thing which we have to do, that is spectral Doppler aliasing. So whenever there is aliasing in the spectral Doppler, that is utmost important to be corrected. And you can correct the spectral Doppler aliasing, first of all, by adjusting the baseline. And still there was aliasing in spite of adjustment of the spectral the baseline, then you will have to increase the scale by increasing PRF. Again there was aliasing, then you will have to decrease the Doppler frequency. If still there is aliasing, then you will have to increase the angle. And if still there was aliasing, then you will have to convert it to high PRF setting. And high PRF setting, there will be additional sample volume placed near to a transducer that will only be for the purpose to increase PRF for short distance. But it will have no work at all, because it will be on the soft tissue. But this way, the PRF will increase. And in spite of that, if the aliasing is there, then you will have to convert to continuous wave Doppler. And here you can see in this image, how can we correct this aliasing? That could be corrected only by adjusting the baseline. So you can see over here, now that was inverted and the baseline is adjusted, and now that is okay. So how you have to read the spectra? So there are three axes for reading a spectra. There will be x-axis. This axis show you time. Then you have y-axis. The y-axis show you excursion, you can say velocity. And there will be a z-axis which will show you the brightness of the spectra. So on x-axis here, you can see this is the time, and now the time is almost 4.5 seconds for the entire spectral window. And how much time is taken by this spectra to reach its peak, and all these calculations will be done from this axis. But most of the calculation are done automatically in most of the machine. Y-axis show you the velocity. Just for example, we can say that what will be the velocity of this peak? So this is almost 100. So we can say that what will be the velocity of this peak? So this is almost in between 50 and almost 70, 75 round. The z-axis, you can see that on z-axis, this is bright spectra, and this is dark spectra. By bright spectra, we mean that the reflectors from which this Doppler shift is made are strong, and this is dark, which means that the reflectors are weak.